Guys, can you believe it? The final shape has finally arrived. New stories, subclasses, destination, raid, weapons, the list goes on. But that's not the only thing that's new. SteelSeries has this beautiful lineup of final shape gear. They put together this suite of products all themed around the final shape expansion. From the Arctis Nova 7 headset, the Artisan keycap, the mousepad, the Control Freak thumbsticks. There's products here for everyone. They even have hot swappable ear plates. So if you already own a SteelSeries Nova 7 or a Nova Pro headset, you can update it to match the new swag. Guys, we have been partnered with SteelSeries for over 2 years now. They truly make the highest quality, most comfortable, and most customizable gaming equipment that you can find. You can visit their website using our link in the description, and if you use code Aztecross at checkout, you'll get 12% off everything store-wide. And to sweeten things up even more, we'll be giving away 10 copies of the final shape over on our Twitch, courtesy of SteelSeries. We'll be live all week diving into the new expansions, so stop by for your chance to win. We'll also have the link to our stream in the description as well. Big thanks to SteelSeries for being such a fantastic partner. Fellas, it is time to review this $100 exotic, which also got an exotic catalyst with the launch of the final shape. This is, of course, Tessellation. Now, if you pre-ordered the deluxe edition of the final shape, it's very likely you just had this thing sitting around in your vault for the past 6 months. And we had an initial review for Tessellation back then, and it had potential. The catalyst is what we've all been waiting for. And we've seen pre-order exotics go from zero to hero very quickly. Look no further than Quicksilver Storm. Its exotic catalyst turned that weapon into a monster. The question is, does Tessellation's exotic catalyst do that as well? Now, if you're checking out this video and you don't currently have Tessellation, the only way you can get this exotic is if you buy the final shape and annual pass DLC. But assuming it follows suit with Striga and Quicksilver Storm, this exotic should become available to all DLC owners eventually. Now, with the acquisition out of the way though, in today's video, we're going to be looking at Tessellation, its catalyst, and the crazy synergy it has with one of our new supers. But first, doing a quick pass of Tessellation itself, its main perk is Property Undecidable. And it says, this weapon, instrument, topology, adapt its damage time to match your equipped grenade. Final blows grant grenade energy. Now, its secondary perk is Property Irreducible. And this is where you hold reload and consume your grenade to load a large projectile that generates an elemental explosion on impact. Now, Tessellation also received an update with the launch of the final shape, similar to all of our subclass reliant perks like Osmosis, Permeability, or even Elemental Capacitor. The update reads that Osmosis and Tessellation now match the damage type of the equipped grenade. Now, it's a pretty simple change, but a very impactful one, especially when we talk about the catalyst. But this change was primarily made so we can use it with Prismatic. But before we move on to that, some quick specifics about our exotic perks. The first is with Property Undecidable. Obviously, the weapon's element now matches our grenade, but looking at how it grants grenade energy. When getting kills with either the base fusion or the rocket shot, you will get 20% energy per kill. This means you can easily get your full grenade back in just one of those rockets. Now, looking at that rocket shot from Property Irreducible, you need to consume a full grenade charge to use it, and here at Carl, we are dealing 123,315 damage. This is both impact and detonation together. Now, if you get kills with it, it will perform as if it has the chain reaction perk, as you can see here on these group of ads. Now, when it comes to damage, just for a frame of reference, an Apex Predator rocket deals 98,329 damage with these two numbers here. So you can see that Tessellation's grenade shot is pretty dang chunky. But that's Tessellation in a nutshell. This is the same weapon we've had for the past 6 months, which takes us into its new functionality and the synergies that arrive with the catalyst. And the catalyst reads, targets near the blast of Property Irreducible are afflicted, burdened, cursed with an elemental effect matching your equipped grenade's damage type. And I love the name of the perk that this exotic catalyst grants. It's called Property Unavoidable. Oh, that's the final shape stuff right there. Now, this is a massive boon to Tessellation's performance. And as the perk suggests, it has 5 different possible effects which we'll go through. Starting with Solar, the rocket shot will scorch enemies. Arc will blind them. Void will weaken them, which is probably the best here for reasons we're going to get into here later. Stasis adds slow stacks, and then Strand will sever whatever it hits. Now, unfortunately, our transcendent grenades do nothing. Tessellation will simply apply whatever effect relates to the grenade you have under that. And this was definitely something we were speculating, wondering, would there be some sort of weird conversion from prismatic grenades into Tessellation? But that's not the case. Now, while we've been showing off these clips, you might have noticed notice a third number coming from our rocket shot. There's this third, slightly delayed detonation that adds about an extra 6,000 damage. It's nothing crazy, but it's this damage number that applies the various debuffs. That means if an enemy doesn't get hit by this extra detonation, it will not get affected. Now with the basics out of the way, which grenade should you be pairing with Tessellation if you're trying to ensure maximum potency? In my opinion, guys, the no-brainer choice here is 100% Void Grenades. This will apply Weaken, which is a 15% debuff anytime you use that rocket shot. And this synergizes heavily with our artifact, which we're going to get into in just a moment. Now, outside of Void Grenades, though, arguments can be made for each depending on how you want to use this weapon. And I think the next most ideal effect would be Strand with Sever. You can use the rocket shot for some burst damage on a boss while simultaneously decreasing their damage output. I'm actually considering bringing this into Grandmaster's Excision and using this on the Witness. Now, this is not to discredit any of the other effects that can be applied here with Tessellation. Those are just the two that I'm looking at the most. But this takes us to our artifact and Void Weaken. You can probably already see where we're going with this, but the artifact mod, Expanding Abyss, is perfect for something like Tessellation and that Exotic Catalyst. Now, this artifact mod reads, Void sources deal increased damage to weakened targets. Now, since Tessellation takes whatever element your grenade is, if you're using a Void Grenade, you've got a Void weapon. And if you use the rocket shot, you weaken whatever you hit, which subsequently makes Tessellation deal more damage to them. And we already did a full video breakdown on that artifact mod, as there's a ton of different Void weapons that could take full advantage of this. But TLDR is that rather than a flat 15% increase in our damage taken from Weaken, when this mod activates, that goes up to 25%. And that means you can immediately start using Tessellation's fusion mode to deal even more damage to whatever you just hit with the rocket. But to get the most out of this combination, we want to try and spam those rockets. And honestly, guys, they do a tremendous amount of damage. So why wouldn't we want to? And this takes us to one of the craziest synergies I've seen recently. When paired with Song of Flame, Tessellation doesn't even consume the grenade charge. Guys, this means you can fire off rockets back to back, with the only delay being the animation of consuming our grenade. Now, there's a caveat with this synergy. When inside of Song of Flame, Tessellation still deals void damage, but it does not benefit from the catalyst. As you can see, we can only get 2 numbers and the rockets do not weaken. With that being said though, you can simply shoot a weakening shot before popping your super to have that increase in damage as you spam your Tessellation rocket shots after. Now let's do some damage comparison. Most notably, that Song of Flame combo with Tessellation versus Song of Flame. Here at Greg, and starting with Tessellation plus Song, we get 8 shots. We start with the weakening shot, and we pop our super, and then get 1 extra shot after the super ends. Now the weaken only lasts long enough to buff the damage of 1 shot with the Expanding Abyss, but it's a pretty hefty increase. Regardless, the full damage of this combination was 923,554 damage. Keep in mind, guys, this is a special weapon. Now then, comparing that to using the super. In this test, we made use of the Shield Crush artifact, which increases our grenade damage when radiant by 25%. And yes, Song of Flame does benefit from this. If you want to see more on this, guys, check out our Warlock Exotic class combination of Spirit of the Star Eater plus Spirit of Apotheosis. It's pretty nasty. But looking at our super alone and actually dealing damage with it, Song of Flame gives us 619,724 total damage. And comparing that to how much Tessellation did with our super, which was 923,554 damage. Tessellation and its projectile spam is 50% better. Now comparing this to Edge Transit, most notably in Edge Transit with Bait and Switch, this came out to 1,230,925 damage. Also, outside of what we're able to showcase here at Greg, if you pair Song of Flame with Apotheosis Veil, you can fire off a maximum of 10 rocket shots for a theoretical damage of 1,171,939 damage. So this is getting a bit closer to Edge Transit's damage, but there aren't many DPS phases that last the duration necessary to pull this off. So with all this being considered, Tessellation and Song of Flame aren't necessarily trailblazing a new meta, but it's also nothing to scoff at, especially since it's not a heavy weapon. This combination is definitely something worth considering though, and I'm honestly intrigued to see how it feels when Grandmaster Excision launches. And you can actually double up with even Strand if you didn't go the weaken route and just take advantage of those debuffs with Sever, create tangles, and then take advantage of the artifact mod that allows those tangle explosions when you shoot them with a Strand weapon to be much larger. And that's what you can utilize here with Tessellation. You can essentially rock double Strand weapons. Now for my PvP players, should you be rocking Tessellation inside of PvP? Personally, guys, I wouldn't. I think there are much better options out there. You can't even one-shot unless lets you land a direct hit, and the bonus effects are hardly worth spinning your entire grenade for. Tessellation, even with the Catalyst, is still more of a PvE weapon than a PvP weapon. So guys, that's it. That is our review. Let us know in the comments below what you think. Fellas and ladies, thank you all for coming and watching, and as always,
Slap that like button like your mama told you right.